Friday, January 12, 2024, 8:31 UTC On Call. Welcome once more, dear reader, to On Call, the Register's weekly reader, contributed column detailing the delights and dangers of working in tech support. This week, meet a reader we'll recognize as Alvin, who regaled us with the tale of the time one of his clients told him their chief network engineer was suspected of having improperly accessed HR files. Their evidence for the allegation was temp files that showed the engineer's account had been used to open certain documents he had no business seeing, never mind reading as thoroughly as the metadata trail indicated. Alvin was asked to sit in on a disciplinary meeting, in which he would share his opinion that the temp files were damning evidence. The engineer was very skilled at gaslighting the management regarding such things, and without me present they feared he would just flim-flam his way out of trouble. And not for the first time, Alvin told On Call. The intended outcome was a severe wrist slap that left the engineer chastened, but happy to continue his important contribution. Alvin's advice was that this approach was not sufficient. The org had lost confidence in a critical employee and would never be able to trust him again. Only a dismissal would do. The biz countered that the engineer had done good work for years and had built the network from scratch. Dismissal would mean losing important corporate memory. Alvin responded that an untrustworthy employee should not be retained and won the day. So a plan was hatched. While HR fired the engineer, Alvin would revoke his network access to ensure no revenge could be wreaked. To make that possible, Alvin was provided with network credentials that let him plan the deed. As he rummaged around the network, he found a VPN connecting to what looked like a residential address, and at that address he found half a dozen servers laden with company files. The chief engineer had built a hot backup site for the company in his apartment, Alvin told On Call. When they asked him about it during the HR meeting, he claimed that he told the company they needed a hot backup site, and when they balked at the cost, he had decided out of the goodness of his heart to build one for them in his home, and just not tell them about it. The engineer was duly let go, under an agreement that ensured the backup servers were handed over. All passwords were then changed and the business carried on, just without its network engineer. For several months, all was well. But after a time, Alvin was asked why the org's network was running so slowly. It turned out I had overlooked an important change on the engineer's last day. I had not thought to contact the ISP and remove the engineer's name from the list of people authorized to make changes, and changes had been made. The former engineer had throttled the bandwidth on the company's account, which explained why the network was so slow, not to mention confirming that firing the engineer was the right course of action. The company took no disciplinary action against me for my oversight, nor their former network engineer for his sabotage, but chalked it up to a lesson learned for everybody, Alvin told On Call. Have you been asked to help fire a colleague, or encountered extensive undocumented tech? If so, click here to send On Call an email and we may feature it in a future column. China loads AirDrop so much it's publicized an old flaw in Apple's P2P protocol. InfoSec Academics suggests Beijing's warning that iPhone owners aren't anonymous deserves attention outside the Great Firewall. To icon Simon Sharwood, Monday, January 15, 2024, 2:58 UTC. In June 2023, China made a typically bombastic announcement. Operators of short-distance ad hoc networks must ensure they run according to proper socialist principles, and ensure all users divulge their real-world identities. The announcement targeted techs like running Wi-Fi hotspots from smartphones and Apple's AirDrop, as they both allow the operation of peer-to-peer networks. AirDrop allows users to accept incoming files from unknown parties, and was reportedly used to share anti-government material during China's long and strict COVID-19 lockdowns. China understands that Apple considers AirDrop's peer-to-peer links are a feature, not a bug. But Chinese netizens know they're always being watched in the name of national security, and many welcome it, which is why Chinese authorities last week admitted that the use of AirDrop is considered problematic after police previously found inappropriate material being shared on the Beijing subway using the protocol. Because AirDrop does not require an internet connection to be delivered, this behavior cannot be effectively monitored through conventional network monitoring methods, which has become a major problem for the public security organs to solve such cases. states an article posted by the city of Beijing's municipal government. The piece goes on to describe an assessment by the Beijing Wongshendongjian Forensic Appraisal Institute that found the techniques Apple uses to anonymize AirDrop users' identities is easily circumvented because identifiable information is only hashed, and a technique called Rainbow Table allows access to the relevant information in plain text. Chinese netizens are therefore on notice that their attempts to share material critical of Beijing can be observed, meaning the 2023 pronouncement about such networks is now more than a theoretical warning. Netizens now know that AirDrop can lead to nasty consequences. InfoSec academic Matthew Green analyzed the Chinese post and research on AirDrop published in 2019 by academics from Germany's Technische Universität Darmstadt and concluded the protocol is leaky, and the Chinese institute's assertions are entirely plausible if an Apple ID or phone number can be guessed by an attacker. The big question in exploiting this vulnerability is whether it's possible to assemble a complete list of candidate Apple ID emails and phone numbers, wrote Green, a cryptographer and professor at Johns Hopkins University, capital I. The extent of surveillance in China means gathering candidate info would not be vastly difficult. Green's post details ways in which actors could create lists of target credentials. AirDrop users are therefore at risk, in China or anywhere else. Green suggests a bizarre high-entropy Apple ID that nobody will possibly guess as one way to protect yourself. Apple could also reduce their use of logging, he wrote, before suggesting that Cupertino could easily fix this issue by using a robust version of a cryptographic technique called private set intersection. But this is not necessarily an easy solution. For reasons that are both technical and political, he observed. It's worth noting that Apple almost certainly knew from the get-go that their protocol was vulnerable to these attacks. But even if they didn't, they were told about these issues back in May 2019 by the Darmstadt folks. It's now 2024, and Chinese authorities are exploiting it. So clearly it was not an easy fix. Green then speculated that even if Apple can fix the issue, it might not want to undertake repairs given it earns around 20% of its revenue in China. That revenue is already at risk. In 2023, Beijing discouraged the use of the iPhone by government employees and suggested buying made-in-China phones as a more patriotic choice. Hence, there is a legitimate question about whether it's politically wise for Apple to make a big technical improvement to their AirDrop privacy, right at the moment that the lack of privacy is being viewed as an asset by authorities in China. Even if this attack isn't really that critical to law enforcement within China, the decision to fix it could very well be seen as a slap in the face, Green wrote. Thanks for listening. Check back later for new cybersecurity